God answers our prayers, even the old ones. Some of you may have been praying a prayer for a long time. I've got one particular prayer I've been praying for 25 years. God's been systematically and slowly answering this prayer along. But I know that He is faithful. I know that God plays the long game, that sometimes things don't occur on my time, but it's on His time. And I'm willing to trust Him and to continue to believe in Him at whatever He has that's promised for me. So, first thing we need to see is that your prayer is heard. Even though God may not be answering it, it is heard. This wasn't a new prayer that Zacharias and Elizabeth had. They'd been praying it for years and years, he maybe decades, and possibly over a course of time. Sometimes you burn out, and sometimes you just quit asking for it. But we see that heaven says, I heard it. That's what God says. I heard your prayers. That's what the angel said. God has heard your prayers. So even though we may think that He's not listening, I always tell people that there's three acceptable answers to God's to prayer from God. There's yes, there's no, and there's not now. And we have to understand that those are acceptable answers whenever it comes to our prayer life. And we just need to be in tune with God and look and pay attention and be sensitive to the moving of His Spirit to see what He's doing. So God doesn't operate on your timeline, but He never loses your prayers. We see in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, that our prayers come up from the saints. They come up and they're a beautiful aroma to God. So the promise to Zechariah and Elizabeth is a son. And Gabriel says, you'll name him John, and he will be set apart for a divine purpose. So we see with Elizabeth, what she thought was past her time, it was just God waiting on His timeline. The next thing I want to look at with verses 18 through 20 is Zacharias' response, okay? He says, how shall I know this? Let's be honest. Kind of sounds reasonable, doesn't it? How shall I know that this is true? How shall I know that you're speaking truth to me? Gabriel, he doesn't treat it too lightly because Zechariah does not believe him. He says, because you don't believe what God sent me to speak to you, I stand in the presence of God. I heard what He commanded, and I gave this message to you. Because of that, you're going to be mute. So we see that this wasn't just a question for understanding. It was a question. It was a statement of his doubt. Here's the tension. Zacharias was righteous. He was faithful. He was obedient. But at this moment, he failed the test. He did not believe. So Gabriel tells him, because you didn't believe, there will be a reaction to that. You're going to be mute until this comes to fruition. So it's not just a punishment, but it's a sign. We got to hear this clearly. You can walk with God. You can still struggle to trust Him in specific areas. All right. Just because you are struggling in a specific area, that doesn't mean that you're not walking with God and that you don't fully have faith in Him. It just means that you may not be understanding the ins and the outs. And we need to arrive at a place in our own lives that we're okay with that. That's what true trust looks like. Is God, I may not particularly be happy about the situation right now, but ultimately I trust you. I tell people all the time that if you want to question God, go right ahead and ask Him questions. But there's one question you don't have to ask because it's rhetorical. You don't have to ask, God, do you love me? Because He emphatically already answered that there on the cross of Calvary, if He loved us or not. We know that with all certainty. So you can maybe not be happy with the situation that you're in, the season that you're walking through, but we want to get our spirit in tune with God's spirit and say, you know what, though, I trust you. I know you love me. I know you're perfect. I know you're righteous. So whatever I endure, I'm willing to endure because I know how amazing you are. So, unbelief, though, it has consequences. It'll silence our voice. It limits our testimony. It affects our experience of God's work. Sometimes in unbelief, we really miss out on some amazing things because we're not willing to take that step into the deep end of the pool and dive right in to faith in God. So sometimes God, he causes us to miss some of His opportunities, some of His amazing working. So we want to squish down that disbelief, and we want to continue to let Him build that faith within us by His Holy Spirit so that we can learn to trust Him more and more each and every day. The next thing, finishing this out, verses 21 through 25, while Zacharias is silent, God's still working. Just because you may be ineffective, you may be in a season of disbelief, you may not be an effective witness, your voice might be taken from you. That doesn't mean God's not still working.